Welcome back to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life correctly according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. You have a unique cosmic imprint, and you may start learning about your uniqueness by listening the gates of your chart. Human design is about the chance that we have to diminish the resistance of life, to attract what is correct for each of us and for our own cross of incarnation. Today you are going to learn or recap, as the case may be, about Hexagram 38. Opposition, the fighter. The ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. Hexagram 38 is part of fourth trimester of SIRIUS, where we accomplish our purpose through transformation, spirit, mutation. In this trimester, you complete your journey and gather everything you've learned and experienced. You find your purpose by being a human that fully lives the life with satisfaction. This fourth trimester is the place where you accept this purpose of being in form, alive, where you get to the potential for transformation and awareness. Gate 38 corresponds to archetype Vishnu, the god of preservation and protection, maintenance of cosmic balance and order, maintaining righteousness, meaning god of Dharma. The role of Vishnu for humanity is to maintain harmony and order through purposeful action, being the god of monoteism. Vishnu represents the power of creation and destruction that work together to find the balance, order, or Dharma in the world. Zodiac sign, Capricorn. Gate 38 flows within the individual knowing circuit, which is about present, hearing, acoustic, melancholy, empowering myself and empowering others. Keyword, empowerment. Center, root center, which is about physical pressure, full of adrenaline to support the effort to live, stress. The harmonic gate is number 28, the gate of the game player, the awareness of what is worth taking risks and fighting for. Together, 28 and 38 form the projected channel of struggle, a design of stubbornness. The opposite gate is number 39, the provocation, obstruction, the pressure to provoke a feeling, a reaction to see who and what is right for you or not. Aminoacid, arginine. Relevant organ, adrenaline glands. Tarot card associated, 4 of Cups. Gate 38 in fourth trimester, in Vishnu from SIRIUS, forms the channel with Gate 28, located in the third trimester of Jupiter duality, co-creating through relationships, connecting to Minerva archetype. This way, aminoacid arginine associated with Gate 38 communicates with aspartic acid of Gate 28. Regarding arginine, we have to observe that there are 6, not 4 gates that share the same amino acid. 4 gates, as I said in the first trimester, 25, 17, 21, 51, gates of Michael, and also Gate 10 and 38 in the fourth trimester, both belonging to Vishnu. So, arginine is helping us to accomplish the purpose through mind and initiation, and also through mutation and spirit. When you see arginine in a body graph, you might think of the possibility of, let's say, transferred behavior, meaning a person might have 25th gate activated, but behaving like a 17 or 21, or a 38th gate behaving like 10th gate. This is a risk, especially when one of these gate is not activated in fact in your chart, but you use it because of the arginine associated with the gate that is activated. This is an unbalanced way of using arginine. If we balance the problems of our life regarding our opinions and acceptance capacity, Gate 17, or in relation with the behavior of self, Gate 10, or regarding control, Gate 21, is it possible to get to balance the amino acids in our body? And as a consequence, can we balance our health? Just ponder on this, how this balance can be obtained. Maybe in first trimester through thinking, by changing a mindset, and in the fourth trimester by taking care about our spirit, accepting mutation, paying attention to the state of spirit, behaving in resonance to our real state of spirit, to our real self. Physically speaking, L-arginine is an amino acid that helps the body build protein. Your body usually makes all the L-arginine it needs. It is also found in most protein-rich foods, including fish, red meat, poultry, soy, whole grains, beans, and dairy products. Most healthy people do not need to supplement with arginine because it is a component of all protein-containing foods and can be synthesized in the body from glutamine via citrulline. Arginine is made by the body as follows. The epithelial cells of the small intestine produce citrulline, primarily from glutamine and glutamate, which is secreted into the bloodstream, which carries it to the proximal cells of the kidney, which extract the citrulline and convert it to arginine, which is returned to the blood. This means that impairment of kidney function or small intestine can reduce arginine synthesis and thus create a dietary requirement for arginine. For such a person, arginine would become essential. Arginine plays an important role in cell division, wound healing, removing ammonia from the body, immune function, and the release of hormones. It is a precursor for the synthesis of nitric oxide, making it important in the regulation of blood pressure. Arginine is necessary for T cells to function in the body and can lead to their deregulation if depleted. So, besides observing the transferred behavior that I talked about earlier, it will be very interesting if you connect arginine belonging to any of the 6 gates that are related to it, with the gates which are relevant for glutamine, gates 13 and 30, for T cells, gate 26, and even with the gates relevant for serine, since arginine in 10th gate, the same amino acid as for gate 17, is opposing serine in the 15th gate. Your conclusions will be a pleasant surprise. Now, I will repeat what I said for gate 28 in the section dedicated to amino acid of that material. Maybe there are people with gate 38 who does not have gate 28 active in their chart, and they do not listen too soon the 28th gate. It is important to search and understand the relation between the aspartic acid and arginine within the channel of struggle. 38, 28. Arginine is the fuel. The pressure in 38th gate and aspartic acid creates the potential in gate 28, using the fuel and pressure of 38. Both gates are placed in the intuition stream. Aspartic acid and arginine are both amino acids, essential to various biological functions in the body. They play key roles in metabolism, protein synthesis, and other cellular processes, and their relationship is crucial for maintaining overall health. Let's break down their individual functions and how they interact. Aspartic acid is a non-essential amino acid, meaning it can be synthesized by the body. Aspartic acid has some essential roles in our body, such as neurotransmission. Aspartic acid is involved in excitatory neurotransmission in the brain, helping the transmission of signals between nerve cells. It is essential for brain function. Metabolism. It plays a role in the urea cycle, helping remove excess nitrogen from the body by converting toxic ammonia into urea for excretion. Protein synthesis. As an amino acid, aspartic acid is important for building proteins and enzymes. Energy production. It is involved in the production of ATP, the primary energy carrier in cells, via the citric acid cycle, Krebs cycle. What we know about arginine of gate 38 is that it is a precursor for the synthesis of nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels, enhancing blood flow and lowering blood pressure. This makes arginine important for cardiovascular health. It is involved in protein synthesis and plays a role in tissue repair and immune function by supporting the production of white blood cells and collagen. Like aspartic acid, arginine is involved in the urea cycle, the body's process of eliminating excess nitrogen, where it helps convert ammonia to urea for excretion. I researched and found out that the connection between aspartic acid and arginine consists in 1. Urea cycle collaboration. Both aspartic acid and arginine are integral to the urea cycle. Arginine is converted to ornithine and urea in the cycle, a key process for detoxifying ammonia. Aspartic acid is involved in the synthesis of arginine in a feedback loop within the cycle, helping facilitate this important nitrogen excretion process. 2. Nitric oxide production. Arginine is the precursor for nitric oxide, and this production can be influenced by aspartic acid's role in general metabolic processes. Aspartic acid may support or enhance the functions that help produce nitric oxide through its involvement in protein synthesis and metabolic pathways. 3. Shared pathways. Both amino acids are part of shared metabolic pathways, contributing to energy production, protein synthesis, and detoxification processes. They work together to maintain proper cellular function and tissue health. 4. Protein synthesis and muscle function. Both amino acids are involved in the synthesis of proteins, which are vital for muscle growth and repair. Aspartic acid supports muscle energy, while arginine aids in tissue regeneration. In combination, they play a crucial role in maintaining muscle health and performance, especially during recovery after exercise. I also found a very important information regarding metabolism and aspartic acid. In plants and microorganisms, aspartate is the precursor to several amino acids, including 4 that are essential for humans: methionine, threonine, isoleucine, and lysine. The conversion of aspartate to these other amino acids begins with reduction of aspartate to its semialdehyde. Asparagine, of gates 34 and 43, is derived from aspartate via transamidation. In summary, aspartic acid and arginine are connected through their roles in the urea cycle, protein synthesis, and energy production. Arginine helps produce nitric oxide, improving circulation and cardiovascular health, while aspartic acid plays a key role in energy production and neurotransmission. Their combined functions support overall metabolic health, detoxification, and cellular processes. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of gate 38, you also know the benefits of the amino acid associated with the behavior of this placement. You have the elements to keynote the message of this gate. If you have this gate active in your chart, take your time, compose the key phrase of this gate, and feel how it resonates. Leave a comment, share your insights and understandings. Now let's have a look to the energy of gate 38, opposition, the fighter. The ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. This gate is found in the root center and is deeply associated with individual survival and integrity. It's part of the channel 28, 38, which connects to the spleen center and deals with the struggle for purpose. The low expression is about pointless struggle, bitterness. When aligned, this gate comes with perseverance, meaningful resistance. As gate of the fighter, this energy resists conformity and stands up against forces that threaten authenticity and survival. So, gate 38 carries the pressure to fight. But not just any fight. It's about fighting for what matters, for your personal truth and purpose, and against forces that are detrimental or dehumanizing. This gate gives drive and tenacity to resist what threatens personal integrity. This energy can be misunderstood, it can appear rebellious or oppositional, but at its core, it's about protecting what is essential and meaningful to you. From a mechanical perspective, the root center is a pressure center, so gate 38 applies pressure to find purpose through resistance. When paired with gate 28 in the spleen, it completes the channel of struggle, creating a lifelong search for meaning through overcoming challenge. Individual circuitry brings a mutative and acoustic flavor. It doesn't care about being understood by the tribe or the collective, it just knows what's worth fighting for. In its low expression, gate 38 may fight blindly or out of habit, without knowing what it's for, become stubborn, resistant to change, or oppositional just for the sake of being different, struggle with feeling misunderstood or isolated, engage in battles that waste energy or create unnecessary conflict. In its gift or high expression, gate 38 fights with clarity and purpose, discerning what is worth struggling for, preserves personal and collective integrity by standing against corruption or oppression, inspires others to hold strong to their own values, possesses deep perseverance and the ability to face adversity without breaking. If you have gate 38 active, part of your life's purpose is learning how to identify which battles are worth fighting, stand firm in your individuality, and resist external pressure to conform. Endure and evolve through challenges, turning struggle into transformation. Your energy is not about aggression. It's about strategic resistance, not to be difficult, but to protect what is sacred within you. When you feel the pressure of 38, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Before engaging in conflict, learn to distinguish between necessary resistance and ego-driven struggle. This is the fuel to fight and stand up for a cause in order to grow and reach new heights. It's also one of the gates of deafness, here to fight for what's meaningful to them. You always search for a meaning and a purpose in your life. This is why sometimes you go against the status quo, defying conventions, conformity, and outdated systems and ideologies. Anyway, remember that the 38 without the 28 might not always have the awareness to discern what is actually worth taking risks for. Gate 38 is simply fuel to fight. The 28 gives it a focus. You need to discern through your strategy and authority on what you have energy to fight, or when to take risks for. This is a healthy way, in the individual circuit, to stand up for what you believe in. From Line Companion, here is the message of Ra Uruhu for this gate 32. I quote, "We come to the individual process, the 38th hexagram, opposition, the polarity of the 39th hexagram, obstruction. These gates are deeply similar in the nature of their pressure. At the same time, they are pointed towards different outlets. The 38th gate is pointed towards the splenic system, and this channel, the 28-38, has to do with the development of our intuitive processes. The 38th gate is the gate of the fighter, and the fuel is the energy to struggle or not. This is the inherent energy. I always try to stress to the people that carry the 38th energy that the only struggle that is worthwhile is the struggle that tells you that life is of value, because that's inherently what the struggle is all about, that life is truly of value. That is why you have risk-taking at the other end. The energy mechanic is the impulse coming out of the format of the 360 to ignore. There is nothing more exquisite than a 38 ignoring you. They ignore you. They do not hear you. You talk to them, and 10 minutes later, they look at you and say, "Were you talking to me?" They are in their own process. This is a fuel or a pressure energy of the individual process. Above the lines, it says, the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. Individual integrity. It is about the value of the individual life, not the value of the collective or the communal, tribal life. It is the value of the individual life. If you scratch any seeker, they will all ask you the same question. What is my purpose in life? At the core, to be individual is this need to recognize value in your own life. End of quote. Walking through the 6 lines of the Gate 38, it's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 38th gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 38 plays its role and become part of the purpose. Let's see the 6 stages of development of this energy and possible dualism in its manifestation. Gate 38, line 1, qualification. Tempering opposition based on the circumstances. Line 1 is the foundation line. In human design, line 1 is introspective, cautious, and investigative. It's all about gathering knowledge, testing the foundation, and asking, is this safe? Is this worth it? So in the context of Gate 38, line 1 is not someone who fights impulsively. It wants to understand the terrain before engaging in opposition. What's the meaning of qualification? This line evaluates the circumstances before taking action. It suggests wisdom in choosing battles, the ability to assess whether resistance is appropriate or useful. A cautious and strategic fighter, someone who doesn't waste energy fighting for every cause, but instead checks if the fight is necessary, safe, or winnable. Think of this line as a seasoned warrior who sizes up the enemy and the terrain before charging into battle. When this line is lived from fear, pressure, or mental distortion, it might hesitate excessively, afraid to engage with anything. Avoid conflict altogether, even when it's necessary. Feel unsure about what's worth fighting for, leading to indecision or paralysis. enter into struggle without proper assessment, and feel burnt out or disillusioned. When lived in alignment with strategy and authority, this line expresses serious speed, measured and intelligent resistance, deep inner discernment, knowing when to say no and stand firm, ability to sense which fights serve purpose and growth, emotional and physical energy, conservation, using energy wisely only when the opposition is justified. In real life, if you have gate 38.1 in your chart, you're a fighter, yes, but one who needs to be sure the struggle is meaningful. You'll feel most empowered when you pause to qualify the situation before resisting or opposing. Your strength lies in strategic opposition, not reckless defiance. Ask yourself, is this worth the fight? What am I protecting? Is this my fight to begin with? Since this gate originates from the root center, it's a pressure to act. But line 1 wants a solid foundation, so always let your authority, emotional, sacral, splenic, and so on, guide you, not just pressure. Resist the urge to fight just to relieve tension. Wait for the internal confirmation that this is your struggle. Neptune exalted, a psychic attunement that guarantees proper action. The psychic gift of knowing when and how to fight. Neptune rules mysticism, illusion, higher consciousness, and sometimes foggy or hidden influences. When exalted, it expresses these qualities in a higher, more inspiring way, a psychic attunement that guarantees proper action. This means that the person with this placement might not logically know why they're resisting something or standing for something, but they have a deep intuitive sense of what's right and wrong for them. It's not mental. It's energetic and instinctive, the psychic gift of knowing when and how to fight. This person doesn't waste energy on meaningless conflict. They seem to have a built-in radar for when to engage, timing, whether something is worth their fight, value, how to fight effectively, strategy. In a pragmatic translation, if you have gate 38 line 1 with Neptune exalted, you likely have a deep, often unexplainable sense of what battles are worth it. Might not always be able to explain why you resist something, but you just know it's not right. Are here to embody clarity and struggle. You fight only when the cause resonates deeply, may appear mysterious or even confusing to others, because your decisions aren't always logical. They're intuitively guided. Should trust your gut. It knows what aligns with your purpose. Mars and detriment. The tendency to oppose as a general rule. The drive to fight as a general rule. Mars represents drive, aggression, action, and how we fight. It's our warrior energy. What does in detriment mean? Detriment means the planet is out of its comfort zone. So Mars here is less refined, more reactive, maybe even impulsive or misdirected. The full line meaning is the tendency to oppose as a general rule, the drive to fight as a general rule. If you have this placement, then you may have a habitual tendency to resist or push back, even without knowing why. You might oppose things by default, not because they're wrong, but because you feel the need to challenge. You are likely wired to fight, but not always for the right reasons. This could look like constantly questioning rules or authority, creating tension or conflict because you're unconsciously looking for a purpose to fight for, feeling restless or irritated when things feel too easy or lacking challenge. You need to know what to watch out for, fighting out of habit rather than purpose, pushing against people or systems just to feel alive, not because it's meaningful, wasting energy on conflicts that don't serve your deeper values, coming off as aggressive, defiant, or difficult, even when it's not necessary. The key is to bring awareness to your drive to fight. Is this worth your energy? What is the deeper value or purpose you are protecting? Your power is immense when you choose your battles wisely. This placement gives you the strength to stand your ground once you've done the work to investigate, line 1, whether it's a worthy cause. With gate 38.1 and Mars and detriment, you have a strong instinct to resist and fight, but you must learn to aim that energy consciously. Otherwise, you might end up fighting everything and everyone, which leads to burnout or isolation. Ra'uruhu said that the first line always acts as a guide to the essential meaning of the hexagram. This foundation line is called qualification. There is something very beautiful in this. This is a fuel, a pressure energy, which is speaking for the whole hexagram, and you can see that right from the beginning, the intuitive process carries something that we call psychic phenomena, tempering opposition based on circumstances. Don't always struggle, don't always fight. The line is saying to only struggle and fight for those things that are of value. Otherwise, don't bother. Neptune exalted. 9 times in the 384 lines, we find a first line, a foundation that has Neptune as its exaltation. The foundation of what you fight for is veiled. The very basis of this hexagram is hidden. It is hidden in the mysteriousness of mutation and the mutative capacity of anything individual. What is of value to fight for can be an enormous mystery in life. Most people don't know. A psychic attunement that guarantees proper action. Proper action in the sense of what to struggle for or not, when to struggle or not, when to listen or not. In the White Book, the psychic gift of knowing when and how to fight, which means with Neptune here, it is just there. That is where it gets its psychic label, because it appears mysteriously from behind the veil, and suddenly, in a noxious situation where nothing is going on, the 38.1 finds itself engaged and struggling. They don't know why, because it is a psychic moment. It is coming from behind the veil. Mars in detriment. The tendency to oppose as a general rule. This is also the nature of what is inherent in opposition. The drive to fight as a general rule. Get out of my way. I am doing it my way. The individual is not designed to be influenced. This is one of the most important things to understand about the nature of individuality. Wherever you see an individual gate in your design, recognize that that is an aspect of your nature that is not to be influenced by others. That is why, at the core of what the pressure is, it is to be intuitively penetrating and aware in the now through the 57-20. But at the root of that, it is to fight anybody that gets in your way, right, wrong, or indifferent. The key is it really of value for you to fight about that? As a first line, this is the true struggle. What is worth fighting for is the great question of the 38.1. End of quote. Gate 38, line 2, politeness. Opposition that does not transgress normal codes of behavior. We know that Gate 38 is about opposition, fighting for what matters, for purpose, and for survival of your individuality. It originates in the root center, giving it pressure energy, the urge to resist forces that feel wrong or threatening to one's integrity. Now let's look at what line 2 brings to this gate. Line 2 is the natural. Line 2 energy is natural, innocent, and unaware of its own impact. It's called the hermit in profile language because it often does best when left alone to do its thing. In Gate 3, 8.2, that naturalness applies to how one resists or opposes. This is the energy of someone who doesn't need to be aggressive to fight. They naturally oppose with grace, tact, and a sense of inner code. What's the meaning of politeness fighter? This line carries the idea that you can resist or take a stand without breaking social norms or being hostile. It suggests a refined ethical style of opposition. Someone who stands their ground firmly but respectfully. A quiet strength, not brash rebellion. The ability to disagree without becoming disruptive or rude. Think of a poised, principled person who says no with a smile, but means it. In the low frequency, when this energy is distorted, in a not self-direction, it may show up as passive aggressiveness, trying to oppose without being direct, being too polite, avoiding necessary confrontation altogether, repressing your need to fight for what matters, fearing social disapproval, feeling inauthentic because you're not letting your natural opposition fully express. When aligned and expressed healthily, this line is powerful. It's about true self. You can oppose unjust forces with elegance. You fight, but you don't alienate others. You preserve dignity in relationships while staying true to your values. You model respectful resistance and empower others to do the same. Your presence challenges norms without being threatening. If you have gate 38.2 in your design, you're a natural resistor, but your way is often subtle, calm, and composed. You may notice people are surprised by your firmness under pressure because you don't come off as aggressive. You tend to maintain ethical boundaries even when challenged. Your style can be very effective in diplomacy, advocacy, teaching, or quiet leadership. You might find useful to ask some questions for reflection. Am I standing firm without losing my inner grace? Am I being too polite to the point of avoiding necessary resistance? Can I disagree respectfully without backing down? If you also have gate 28, making the channel of struggle, gate 38.2 brings a gracious quality to your existential journey of seeking purpose. You're here to navigate life's deep questions with elegant resilience, not hostility. Pluto exalted, the value of discretion, the energy for the intuitive awareness for discretion. The fight of gate 38 is existential. What am I fighting for? Line 2 is the natural. Line 2 is natural, shy, and projection-oriented. It doesn't want to be disturbed or dragged into things it doesn't resonate with. This line just knows, but may not always see its own gift until it's called out. It prefers to operate on instinct, especially when left alone to do what it does best. In gate 38.2, this means you may have a natural ability to sense which struggles are meaningful. You don't need to overthink it, you just feel it, especially when not pressured. What is Pluto? Pluto governs transformation, power, truth, and the hidden. It's deep, intense, and about evolution over time. When exalted, Pluto expresses its highest potential. Power used with wisdom and depth. Discretion means knowing when to act and when to hold back. Discretion is not about being passive, it's about being strategic and aware. You don't need to fight every battle, just the right ones. With Pluto exalted here, you have powerful intuition about this. If you have gate 38, line 2 with Pluto exalted, you must be aware of your natural strengths. You have a built-in radar for when to engage in struggle and when to stay out of it. You fight with precision, not for attention, but because it feels right. You're discerning. You can sense which challenges are worth it and which are distractions. Others may not understand how you just know when to resist or when to stay quiet, but it's real. On the other hand, if you're not aligned, you may withdraw too much or ignore your natural instincts. You might avoid conflict altogether if you're not recognized or encouraged. Or conversely, you may jump into fights before your intuition has fully settled, if pressured by others. In time, you'll learn how to work with this placement. Trust your instincts, especially about what's worth your energy. Don't let people pressure you into struggles that don't feel aligned. Alone time helps you feel into what's right. You need space to tune into your natural discretion. When you do engage, it's powerful. You can be a quiet but impactful force for truth and purpose. With gate 38.2 and Pluto exalted, you are naturally gifted at knowing when to fight and when to stay silent. You carry an intuitive sense of purpose-driven struggle, and when you honor your inner timing, your actions become deeply powerful and transformative, for you and for others. Moon and detriment. An over-politeness that is both servile and obviously superficial and defeats its very purpose. The energy for over-politeness in times of struggle. What is the moon? The moon governs emotions, instincts, and conditioning. It's reactive. It shows how we emotionally respond to the world. In detriment, it might be about conflicted expression. A planet in detriment behaves out of alignment, often trying to overcompensate or express itself in a distorted way. The energy for over-politeness in times of struggle. Here's what this looks like in everyday life. 1. Over-politeness as a defense mechanism. When you're in conflict or tension, instead of directly resisting or standing your ground, you might smile too much, avoid confrontation, say yes when you want to say no. Try to be nice to smooth things over, even when it feels fake. You're trying to avoid the discomfort of open struggle, so you mask it with politeness. 2. It's superficial, and people can tell. This kind of politeness isn't sincere. Others may feel the tension underneath and not trust your friendliness. Ironically, this undermines your power and the very purpose of being polite, connection, or harmony. 3. Avoiding the real fight. You may use niceness to dodge the deeper issue, especially if you're uncomfortable asserting yourself. But this leaves you internally frustrated because something feels off. You're not honoring your truth. You need to develop authenticity in communication. It's okay to say what you really feel, even if it's uncomfortable. Learn to sit with emotional tension instead of softening it with fake pleasantries. Use your discretion, this is a line 2 gift, to know when to speak and when to hold back, but don't default to politeness just to avoid conflict. On the other hand, you need to pay attention to some challenges. Saying what others want to hear just to keep peace. Being nice to the point where people don't take you seriously. Suppressing your resistance because it feels impolite. In a few words, with gate 38.2 and the moon in detriment, you may have a tendency to cover up conflict with artificial politeness, especially when under pressure. This can block your natural ability to fight for what matters. The work is to develop emotional honesty, so your struggle is authentic and respected, not hidden behind a smile. In line companion, we have the original explanation of Ra Uruhu. I quote, "The second line has a very deceptive name. Very few people really grasp it. All second lines are about projecting outwards, but they do not have the depth. This is not a question of what the struggle is or what one has to struggle about. This is just a projection outwards, that one is a struggler and that one is a fighter. This projection outwards comes under this title of politeness. Don't misunderstand this. This does not mean that these people do not struggle. It just means that they struggle all the time, and it is polite. Please stop doing that. I don't want you to do that anymore. Please." They can drive you crazy with their politeness. Opposition that does not transgress normal codes of behavior. Pluto exalted. The value of discretion. In the White Book it says, the energy for the intuitive awareness for discretion. These people try to keep the struggle from getting out of hand. They don't want the big fight. They just very carefully coach everything in nice, polite terms, and you know right away that they are struggling with you, but they are polite, so they survive. Think about what is at the other end. In the 28th gate, we have the fear of death. I know so many 28s and 38s who have been beaten and robbed in their life. They bring struggle into the world, and they get it back. The 38.2 knows that, and so they struggle on politely. This is the framework that will lead to the universalization in the 5th line. They struggle politely. Moon in detriment. An over-politeness that is both servile and obviously superficial and defeats its very purpose. These people kill you with their politeness. Oh yes, I will do this for you. They can drive you crazy with the way in which they express it, the energy for over-politeness in times of struggle, the fear of dying, the fear of being beaten, destroyed, and broken is very powerful in this gate. If you are a fighter, you know what the fight is. The fight is to the death. This lies underneath every 38, the recognition that the fight is to the death. The struggle is to the death. End of quote. Gate 38, line 3, alliance. The ability to sustain opposition through integration with others. Gate 38 is located in the root center and is all about individual resistance, fighting for what gives life purpose, standing against what threatens your integrity. It carries deep existential pressure to find meaningful struggle. Now line 3 brings a new flavor. Adaptation through trial, error, and strategic bonding. Line 3 is the trial and error explorer. Line 3 is always about experimenting, learning from experience, and being adaptable. It's not afraid of failure. This line learns by bumping into life, testing things out, seeing what works and what doesn't. In Gate 38, Line 3 brings flexibility to opposition. You're not rigid in your fight. You know that alliances make you stronger. Meaning of alliance for a 38th gate fighter. This line recognizes, if I want to sustain my fight for what matters, I can't do it alone. Alliance here refers to strategic partnerships that support your opposition to detrimental forces. Building alliances to reinforce your cause without compromising your core integrity. A fighter who knows when to join forces and who to trust in the fight. Being open to support, collaboration, and shared resistance. This is not about surrendering your individuality. It's about recognizing the strength in unity, especially when you're standing against something larger than yourself. When misaligned or operating from fear, Gate 38.3 can show aligning with the wrong people or causes, leading to betrayal or confusion. Struggling to maintain your individuality within the alliance, losing yourself. Being overly reactive, forming connections out of desperation rather than discernment. Feeling let down by others who don't share your level of conviction. When lived in alignment with your strategy and authority, this line shines by. Forming authentic partnerships that amplify your purpose. Knowing who has your back and who doesn't. Teaching others how to stand together without sacrificing uniqueness. Having a strong, flexible presence in conflict. You know when to act alone and when to build coalitions. In relationships and work, Gate 38.3 people often are strong individualists, but wise enough to value teamwork. Naturally draw in others who share their values or their cause. May become key players in movements, organizations, or partnerships that stand for integrity, rights, or innovation. Serve as the bridge builder between individual drive and group purpose. Here are some life questions to reflect on. Am I choosing allies who support my values? Do I know when to fight alone and when to join forces? Am I learning from my alliances or repeating old mistakes? If you also have Gate 28, then you have the full channel of struggle, 28, 38, and this line adds a beautiful nuance. Your existential struggle for purpose is not just personal. You're designed to build alliances with others who share that journey. Sun exalted, the ability to sustain through integration with similar forces, thus ensuring the vitality to persevere. The energy to integrate with others in times of struggle. The sun is about core identity, life force, and what you radiate outward. It's a central theme in your energy, the main driver of your personality expression. The exalted state means the sun is expressing at its highest and most beneficial potential here, strong, stable, vital energy. Let's see the theme plays out in real life, the energy to integrate with others in times of struggle. 1. You thrive when you're not fighting alone. Your personal struggle becomes stronger and more sustainable when you're connected to others who are fighting for the same thing. You don't have to carry it all alone. Collaboration is a source of vitality, not a weakness. 2. You naturally attract allies. There's something in you that draws others to join your cause, or that makes you seek out those who resonate with your fight. This helps you keep going, even when the path is hard, because you're part of something bigger. 3. Learning who to align with through trial and error. Line 3 means you'll try different people, partnerships, or causes, and sometimes they won't stick, and that's okay. You build wisdom over time about which alliances energize you and which ones drain you. 4. Perseverance through community. When aligned, you're a resilient, adaptable fighter who inspires others and gets stronger through shared effort. You show others how to keep going without burning out by linking up and growing through connection. Use this energy to collaborate with like-minded people when facing struggle, to build alliances that feel purposeful. Don't isolate yourself. To evaluate connections based on how they impact your vitality. Are they energizing or draining? On the other hand, it's necessary to watch out for hoes, getting stuck in solo struggle, thinking you have to do it all yourself. Wasting time in misaligned partnerships that don't support your core fight. Feeling discouraged when early alliances fall apart? Line 3 means this is a part of the process. With gate 38, line 3, and the sun exalted, you're here to learn, through experience, which struggles are worth it and who's worth struggling with. Your power is in teaming up with others who share your values, and through that alignment, you gain the energy, clarity, and perseverance to keep going. Earth in detriment. Selfish alliance, which saps the energy of one's partners in order to ensure personal vitality. The energy to selfishly use others in times of struggle. Earth represents what grounds you, your physical energy, and your balancing force. It's about stability and how you stay connected to the material world. Detriment is about misalignment, overcompensation, or distortion. So here, Earth is out of balance, and instead of healthy grounding, you may express the shadow side of this energy. Let's see how this theme plays out in your real life. The energy to selfishly use others in times of struggle. 1. Draining partnerships. You may, often unconsciously, attach to people during challenging times, not to collaborate, but to take energy from them so you can keep going. You might lean heavily on someone emotionally without offering much in return, pull others into your personal battles, expecting support without considering their needs, or you may form partnerships that are more about survival than true mutual purpose. 2. Manipulative alliances. You might present as if you're in it together, but underneath, the alliance is about keeping yourself afloat. There's a risk of using connection not as genuine collaboration, but as a means to get fuel, attention, resources, emotional support, even if it costs the other person. 3. Pattern of unbalanced relationships. Because line 3 learns through experience, you may go through several messy alliances where people feel used or depleted. These experiences teach you how to recognize real alignment versus survival-based, one-sided connections. How to work with this energy and what to develop is very important to grasp. Self-awareness. Ask yourself, am I supporting the other person as much as I'm expecting support? Practice mutuality, shared struggle, not survival at someone else's expense. Take responsibility for your energy. Don't expect others to carry your emotional or practical load alone. Learn to say, let's help each other, not just me. You need to watch out for forming relationships during crisis only to extract help without giving back. Staying in alliances longer than needed because they serve your needs, not because they're fair. Repeating codependent cycles where you appear to bond, but are really just preserving your own vitality. With gate 38.3 and Earth in detriment, your survival instinct can lead you to form alliances that serve you, but drain others. The key is to become aware of this tendency, own your needs, and strive for genuine, balanced relationships. Through trial and error, you'll learn to recognize who energizes you and who you can uplift in return. Let's see what Ra Uru Hu said about this line. I quote, "The third line is a joke. The moment that you understand what third lines are about, bonds made and broken, trial and error, the idea that this line is called alliance is very funny because you know that inherent in these alliances is the fact that they will fall apart. They will fall apart because the individual ultimately struggles alone. This is the whole thing. In the end, by the time you get into the integration system, the one thing that is clear is that everyone is alone. Individuals know this intensely. That is why it is so important for them to recognize in their lifetime what their individual value is. They know that they are alone and they ask themselves, is it worth it? Sun exalted. The ability to sustain through integration with similar forces, thus ensuring the vitality to persevere. Please understand what that means. I am struggling against that person in the neighborhood, and I will struggle with that person for the rest of my life on my own. If it happens that my next door neighbor is also struggling with that person, I will go along with my next door neighbor and we will struggle together. That is never really an alliance. It is the alliance in the way in which the English and the French army will fight together, but they only do so if they have a common enemy. When they do not have one, they will fight each other, because that is the nature of the individual. In the White Book, the energy to integrate with others in times of struggle, as long as it is the same struggle, as long as it is focused on the same thing or pointed towards the same thing. We have the Earth in detriment. Here you see one of these Sun/Earth polarities. These lines are important. Earth in detriment. Selfish alliance, which saps the energy of one's partners in order to ensure personal vitality. I am struggling with my neighbor, and my neighbor is struggling with my neighbor. I will let my neighbor do most of the struggling so I can save my energy. When my neighbor burns out, then I will jump in the right moment and finish it off. This is the third line. End of quote. Gate 38, line 4, investigation. Analysis which strengthens opposition. Line 4 is the opportunist, the networker. In human design, line 4 energy is about influence through networks, relationships, and stable connections. Deep inner conviction, but often in a more fixed, structured, and influential way than other lines. Bringing external impact. This line reaches outward to connect and influence. Let's see the interpretation of investigation in a fighter gate. This line is called investigation, and it's all about using analysis, knowledge, and strategy to strengthen opposition. Not just resisting instinctively or emotionally, but taking time to understand the enemy, the system, or the threat. The power of clarity, preparation, and mental insight in the fight. Think of a wise strategist or activist who studies the system they oppose before acting. They don't just fight, they know why, how, and where to push. If you are aware of your own energy of gate 38.4, then you may have observed that also. You are designed to analyze the purpose of the struggle before engaging. Your strength comes not from force, but from intellectual clarity and preparedness. There's a natural tendency to study the opposition and gather evidence before taking action. You may influence others through your insights and ability to speak truth to power, backed by facts and clear thinking. When distorted or misaligned, this line can get stuck in overanalysis and never take action, be hypercritical, always seeing flaws but unable to act on them, distrust everything, seeing enemies everywhere, use investigation as a way to avoid personal risk. In its higher expression, Gate 38.4 offers strategic resistance. You pick your battles wisely and with insight. The ability to analyze systems or patterns and detect what's wrong or out of alignment. A fighter's mind combined with intellectual sharpness. The potential to influence and inspire others through your clear and well thought out opposition. In your daily life, if you have gate 38.4, you may find that you often feel compelled to understand the deeper causes of conflict before jumping in. You're not a blind resistor. You're a thinker fighter. You might naturally draw others into the struggle by presenting evidence, logic, or analysis that wakes them up. In relationships and work, people may respect your clarity and moral backbone, especially when you oppose injustice or dysfunction. Here are some questions for reflection. It might be useful. Am I using my analysis to empower action or to avoid it? Do I know when I've gathered enough information to make a stand? How can I use my investigative mind to support others in their own purpose-driven struggles? Together with Gate 28, this line in the channel of struggle, 3828, gives you a potent design, a deep-thinking existential warrior. You're not just fighting for survival. You're bringing meaning, analysis, and intelligent resistance into the world. Pluto exalted, the detective who develops or the insider who accepts a joint opposition, whose success can only be based on trust. The energy to recognize who can be of value in times of struggle. Line 4 is the opportunist, the networker line. Line 4 is focused on influence through relationships. It's about building trust, making alliance, and relying on personal networks. It doesn't act alone. It needs others to carry out its purpose. In Gate 3, 8.4, this means You're not here to struggle solo. You're designed to find the right people to struggle with, people you trust. Your purpose-driven resistance is relational. It's built on solid, mutual connection. Pluto rules transformation, depth, power, truth, and evolution over time. When exalted, it represents Pluto's highest expression, deep psychological insight, growth, and soul-level alignment. The energy to recognize who can be of value in times of struggle. In real-world terms, it means that 1. You're a purpose detective. You have a deep inner sense of who's aligned with your values and who isn't. Like a detective, you observe carefully before committing to anyone's cause or fight. You instinctively sense, can I trust this person when things get hard? 2. You build alliances based on trust, not convenience. Your relationships aren't random. They're built on genuine connection and a shared sense of purpose. You know that when you struggle with the right people, you can go far. You're not interested in shallow partnerships. You're looking for real allies, even if it takes time. 3. You're psychologically tuned in. Pluto gives you penetrating awareness. You see hidden motives and can sense whether someone's truthful, fake, or useful in the fight. This makes you excellent at building strong strategic connections, but also good at cutting off people who don't serve the deeper purpose. 4. You don't trust easily, and that's a strength. You're cautious about who you let into your inner circle, especially in struggle. Once you do trust someone, the bond is powerful, and the shared resistance becomes meaningful and productive. You need to work correctly with this energy to take the mod out of it. Take your time before aligning with others in a conflict or cause. Build trust-based partnerships, people who show up consistently and authentically. Use your Pluto insight to sense deeper truth in others and filter out pretenders. When you are not aligned or you don't use correctly your strategy and authority, you might become too suspicious or guarded. Don't miss out on genuine allies. Hold others to impossibly high trust standards before giving them a chance. Isolate yourself when struggle arises, even though your strength is in trusted connection. With Gate 38.4 and Pluto exalted, you are designed to fight for purpose, but not alone. You are a trust-based strategist who can sense which allies are valuable in a struggle. You bring depth, insight, and loyalty to partnerships. And when aligned, your shared resistance becomes a transformative force. Mars, in detriment, the aggressiveness and opposition that prejudices investigation and limits trustworthiness. The power of adrenaline to provoke aggressiveness. Mars is about drive, assertion, willpower, and the energy to fight. It fuels how you take action, how you respond to confrontation, and how you use force. Detriment is a distorted or overactive expression. When Mars is in detriment, it acts too fast, too hard, or without considering the consequences. The power of adrenaline to provoke aggressiveness. In real life, this is seen in different ways. 1. You may respond to tension with overreaction or attack. Instead of stepping back to observe, like the healthy version of line 4, you might jump into arguments, push others away with intense force, use the fight energy to dominate rather than to find meaning or mutual ground. 2. You damage trust by being too aggressive. Since line 4 is about building trust, aggressive reactions undermine relationships. People might not trust your intentions, even if your fight is righteous, because you come across as too forceful or hostile. 3. You might block deeper understanding. The line speaks of prejudicing investigation. That means you may be so sure you're right that you don't pause to explore others' perspectives. This blocks you from discovering who's actually worth aligning with and may push away people who could have been allies. 4. Adrenaline overrides emotional intelligence. The root center pushes adrenaline and urgency. With Mars in detriment, this pressure can cause you to react rather than respond. You feel like you have to do something now, which can trigger fights that didn't need to happen. It's important to have a plan for getting to know how to work with this energy and what to cultivate. Pause before reacting. When you feel triggered, take a breath and ask, what's the deeper purpose here? Use your energy to observe, not just oppose. Learn to channel adrenaline into constructive action, not aggression. Focus on building trust, especially during tension. You need to be aware of some challenges and to watch out for burning bridges too quickly when someone challenges you. Overconfidence in your judgment, leading you to attack before you understand. Acting from the rush of conflict, not the wisdom of strategy. With gate 38.4 and Mars in detriment, your instinct to fight for purpose can be overpowered by raw aggression, especially under stress. This can sabotage trust and limit your ability to form real alliances. You might want to hear the explanation of Ra'uruhu from Line Companion. I quote, when you get to the 4th and 5th lines, you get to the inherently social lines. Nothing about the individual is inherently social. At the top of the lines, it says, the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. The detrimental force is anyone who tries to influence the individual. So when you look at the inherent sociability of the 4th and 5th lines, please understand that that is only going to come from an appropriate individual. It will have to come from another individual, in essence from the 28th gate at the other end. In other words, individuals do not influence each other. They empower each other or not, but they do not influence each other. They empower each other to live out their own individuality, and, in that, as long as they are empowering each other, a trust can develop between the two of them. This is the line of investigation, the single-mindedness, the focus of the individual to struggle for what is of value in life, analysis which strengthens opposition, Pluto exalted, the detective who develops, or the insider who accepts a joint opposition, whose success can only be based on trust. In the White Book, the energy to recognize who can be of value in times of struggle. The 38 is a pressure, and the pressure needs to be released. Its natural pathway obviously leads to the 28. When a 38 and a 28 have an electromagnetic connection to each other, in that moment, it is possible to align with each other. It is possible to trust and struggle together out of empowerment for each other. That who is the very important element. Who is that person that you can trust to not influence, but empower you? This is the key in the 4th line. Mars and detriment. The power of adrenaline to provoke aggressiveness. In the Black Book, the aggressiveness and opposition that prejudices investigation and limits trustworthiness. The thing to recognize about this line is that these are some of the most aggressive individuals that we have in terms of maintaining their individual integrity. The slightest attempt to influence them will get the strongest possible reaction because that is what they are here for. Because of that, even another individual can bring out an aggressive reaction in 38.4, quote S. We are complex beings. They may meet a 28 who is basically collective, but they have the 28 to their 38. That basic collective part is not going to empower, but to share. It wants to make judgments. It wants to correct. It wants to say, no, let us not do it this way. Let us do it that way. In that instant, you get violence as a potential because the aggressiveness will say, no, my way. What you have here in the 4th line is a very fixed energy on being able to establish if life is worthwhile or not. A genetic possibility to recognize who can empower you to fulfill that recognition. Because of the strength of this, there is also the possibility that nobody will have it. There is this constant aggressive defense against being influenced by the outside. My son has the 4th line twice with Neptune. The way in which that comes out is very bizarre. Telling him that he should do something does not work. He just does not listen. He looks like saying, who the hell are you to tell me anything? I was sitting in a cafe, and he was about to go across the street, and as he left, I said to him, be careful. Before he gets to the crossing, he turns around and says, I know what I am doing. He is only 5 years old. These are 38 S's. Don't get in their way. End of quote. Gate 38, line 5, alienation, a stage in opposition when one is totally isolated. Gate 38 comes from the root center, and it's about fighting for purpose, resisting anything that threatens your individuality or integrity. It's the energy of the fighter, one who seeks meaning through challenge and struggle. This fight is existential, driven by pressure to find what's worth standing up for, even when no one else sees it. Now let's explore how line 5 shapes this gate. Line 5 is the heretic, the savior. Line 5 energy is about universalization and projection. Others project onto line 5S, seeing them as heroes, solutions, rebels, or even threats. There's a practical solution-focused energy in line 5S, but also misunderstanding, as people often place expectations on them that they can't or won't fulfill. Meaning of alienation, fighter. Alienation here doesn't just mean loneliness, it refers to a point in the fighter where you are completely alone because no one else understands or supports what you're standing for. You may be opposing something so fundamental or embedded in society, relationships, or systems that others can't or won't join you. There's a feeling of being cut off, not because you're wrong, but because you see what others don't want to see. This is the line of the radical truth teller, the lone resistor who refuses to conform, even if it costs them community, comfort, or safety. When misaligned or bitter, this line may experience deep isolation that feels like exile, meaning you feel misunderstood, rejected, and blamed. Believing no one will ever support or understand your cause, becoming paranoid or overly guarded, expecting betrayal or rejection, acting as a lone wolf, even when help is available, due to mistrust or pride. In alignment, Gate 38.5 expresses the power of true self as the lone visionary, strong enough to stand for truth, even when isolated, willingness to fight alone if needed, because you know your struggle is meaningful, the ability to inspire others over time to see the truth and join your side, becoming a beacon of integrity. Your refusal to bend wakes others up. Line 5 can ultimately attract followers or influence, but only after enduring the stage of alienation. The dark before the dawn. This is warrior energy with a prophet's edge. You might be the one opposing a toxic family pattern, a corrupt institution, or a societal norm no one questions. At first, people may call you difficult or dramatic, but over time, they may realize you were right. You are here to carry a torch, even when it burns in your hand. From time to time, with Gate 38.5, you may need some reflection. Am I standing for what's true for me, even if it isolates me? Can I endure this phase of alienation without losing faith in my purpose? Am I open to support when the right people do show up? With the channel of struggle, 3828 active, this line makes your life about finding purpose in isolation and darkness, and bringing truth and direction to others through your example. It's a heroic and painful path, but ultimately transformative for you and those who witness your journey. Saturn exalted, the ambition and concentration to endure, the energy to stubbornly fight alone. Gate 38 carries the instinctive pressure to resist, to push back against meaninglessness or threats to personal integrity. It's not about fighting just to fight. It's about standing for what truly matters. Line 5 is the fixer, the leadership line. Line 5 is practical, strategic, and projected. It wants to solve problems for others, but it often gets seen as a savior or hero, even when that's not what it intends. It's naturally influential and often carries expectations from others. In Gate 3, 8.5, this energy is about influencing others through the strength of your personal struggle. Saturn is the planet of discipline, structure, responsibility, and endurance. It teaches through limits, pressure, and perseverance. When exalted, Saturn is expressing its highest potential. Think, mastery through commitment. Saturn, exalted, the ambition and concentration to endure, the energy to stubbornly fight. You have the raw power, endurance, and determination to persist, even when no one supports you. You are here to stubbornly stand your ground in the face of pressure because you know what matters. In your real life, 1. You are built to go the distance even alone. You don't need cheerleaders, helpers, or a crowd. If something matters to you, you will fight for it, quietly, consistently, and relentlessly. You're self-contained and often draw strength from solitude in the face of opposition. 2. You are focused and ambitious in your struggle. This isn't random rebellion. It's disciplined resistance. You can concentrate deeply on your purpose, and you're willing to sacrifice comfort or approval to stand firm. You bring a kind of steady, mature force, like someone who says, "I'll wait this storm out." 3. You don't rely on others to validate your fight. Even when people don't get it, you keep going. You don't give in just because others say you're wrong, or it's not worth it. You might even prefer to work alone because too much interference dilutes your focus. 4. But you may be seen as hard, distant, or stubborn. Because this is a line 5, people may project onto you. They're cold. They're too intense. They're doing their own thing. That's because you don't conform, and sometimes that's threatening to others. For achieving the higher expression of this placement, learn how to work with this energy and what to use. Lean into your discipline and ambition when others quit. You're designed to persevere. Be okay with not being understood. Your clarity doesn't require outside approval. Trust your internal compass. You know what's worth fighting for. What to watch out for some challenges or low expression examples, such as becoming rigid or isolated, fighting so hard alone that you reject help when it's actually available, wearing loneliness as a badge when connection might actually support your fight, getting frustrated by others' lack of resolve and judging them instead of staying focused on your own path. With Gate 38.5 and Saturn exalted, you have the endurance and ambition to fight for what matters, even if you must do it entirely on your own. You're a stubborn survivor who brings quiet, grounded leadership through sheer perseverance. You may not need the crowd, but your resilience inspires them all the same. Pluto. In detriment, alienation experienced as painful confinement that by its very nature blinds one to the possibility that there are those at some point who may come to one's aid. The energy for stubbornness is so strong that it is difficult to recognize that there are others that can help in times of struggle. 1. You can become isolated in your fight. You may be so convinced that your struggle is yours alone, that you shut out potential allies, even those who genuinely want to help. You might feel like, no one understands. I have to do this alone. If I rely on anyone, I'll be disappointed or let down. 2. You might not even see the support. Pluto in detriment here acts like a psychological blind spot. Even when support is present, you may distrust it, minimize it, or feel it's too late or not enough. This can lead to a self-fulfilling loop of isolation. You feel alone, then you fight alone, and you exhaust yourself. You reinforce the belief that you're always alone. 3. Your stubbornness is your strength and your wall. The same force that makes you resilient, committed, and unshakable also builds an emotional wall that keeps others out, especially in vulnerable times. You may reject help not out of pride, but out of deep unconscious fear of betrayal, disappointment, or dependence. 4. There is a hidden pain in this stance. The phrase, painful confinement, is important. This energy hurts, but it becomes so normal that you might normalize suffering as part of life. That creates emotional toughness, but also cuts you off from nourishment, trust, and connection. It's very important to know how to work with this energy to reach the higher potential of this placement. You can use it well by owning your strength, since you truly are capable of carrying a lot alone. Being open to the idea that you don't have to do it alone, even if you can. Watching for moments when someone offers support and your instinct is to say, "No, I'm fine." On the other hand, you need to be careful of shutting down emotionally and calling it independence. Believing isolation equals strength. It's endurance, but it's not the only way. Assuming others won't or can't understand before giving them a real chance. With gate 38.5 and Pluto in detriment, you are a deeply determined fighter, built to endure struggle. But your stubborn self-reliance can blind you to the fact that help is possible and sometimes even necessary. When you're in the thick of a challenge, you may feel emotionally cut off, like no one can or will show up, even when they're right there. This is not weakness. It's simply a call to bring awareness to your patterns. You can still be strong while also learning to let genuine support in. As usual, we need to have a look in line companion. I quote, "We will see when we look at the 39.5 as the polarity on the other side, because it is projected on these people that they are provocative, that they are basically left alone. The same thing is true when you come to this fifth line with its appropriate name, alienation. Remember that the fifth line is how the public or the outside world sees a hexagram. So, the outside world sees the 38 as an alienated being, somebody who is fighting in their own world, somebody who is really not connected to the rest because they seem to be caught up in some kind of struggle about something. This energy is seen as alienating energy by the outside. A stage in opposition where one is totally isolated. This is the universalization of the pressure to be individually intuitive. It is absolutely perfect. The individual is always at their best when they are isolated within the aloneness of their own being, because they have to resolve everything in life within their own context. They are individual, Saturn exalted, the ambition and concentration to endure. These are very tough folks. You project on them that they can fight, and they are there. They are always ready for the struggle. It gets projected on them all the time, so they are deeply trained in life for what the struggle can be. The energy to stubbornly fight alone. This is their magic in that sense. Their magic is that they do not need to have others with them in their struggle, because in fact their struggle can be of value to others. They are often groundbreakers, because they are given the opportunity to struggle for what is really of value. They often get to be the people that first discover the value of something, because they are given the opportunity to struggle. Pluto in detriment. Alienation experienced as painful confinement that by its very nature blinds one to the possibility that there are those at some point who may come to one's aid. In the White Book, the energy for stubbornness is so strong that it is difficult to recognize that there are others who can help in times of struggle. It is about alienation, even in its detriment, where there is always this possibility that there may be somebody else. After all, there is the 28th gate at the other side. There is still this sense that one is always alone. The difference is what all individuals have to live out in their process. They have to go through the binary of what aloneness is. This binary of aloneness for the individual is that half of the time it is delicious and half of the time it is not. This is what lies in alienation. The Exalted says, "It is great to fight alone. I only have to deal with my resources, my process, with what is of value to me. I don't have to concern myself with anybody else." The other side says, "I have to fight alone. Isn't this awful? Nobody will help me. Nobody cares about my struggle. Nobody empowers me." They always have this feeling that they have to do it alone. It is true. You have to do it alone. Somebody can help you to get to the door, but you have to go through the door yourself. The 38 is always going to need that doorway of the 28. It cannot be fulfilled by itself. The 38 is only a pressure. Remember that how the lines manifest is entirely dependent on the design. Again, you cannot take any of the meanings of these lines and project on them until you see them directly in context to the design. How they will come out and how they actually operate, that will make the difference. If you have the 38.5 and you have no outlet for it, you will feel alienated within yourself because it is so difficult to bring it out. Again, all of these lines have to be seen in the context of the design. End of quote. Gate 38, line 6, misunderstanding, opposition without basis. Gate 38 from the root center carries the energy of the existential fighter, a drive to resist what is wrong and to fight for purpose and personal integrity. It thrives on meaningful struggle. Every line of a gate brings a unique flavor. Line 6 stands apart as the role model, the one who has lived through the earlier lines process and now sees the bigger picture. Line 6 is the role model. Line 6 always develops in 3 stages. 1, 0, 30 years, or Saturn return. Trial and error like a line 3. 2, 30, 50 years. Retreat and observation from the roof, a more detached phase. 3, 50 plus years. Getting down from the roof. Embodiment of wisdom, a true role model, if aligned. So, in gate 38.6, this person has seen the fight from all angles. The strategy, line 1. The grace, line 2. The alliances, line 3. The investigation, line 4. The alienation, line 5. And now they see the risk of fighting the wrong battle. Misunderstanding. What does it mean for the fighter? Opposition without basis means fighting without clarity, resisting something imagined, assumed, or misinterpreted, being misunderstood or misunderstanding the enemy, fighting for a purpose that doesn't really hold meaning, mistaking noise for signal. This line warns, the pressure to resist can lead to struggle for the sake of struggle, if not guided by true understanding. In the shadow frequency, gate 38.6 can express as fighting ghosts, opposing people or systems that are not actually a threat, being perceived as difficult or oppositional, even when there's no real conflict, wasting energy on causes that aren't yours to carry, experiencing repeated misunderstandings in relationships or groups. Others don't get what you're resisting, and you may not fully know either. In its mature, aligned form, this line expresses wise discernment about which fights matter, deep awareness of how projection and misunderstanding play into conflict, a role model who teaches not every battle is worth fighting, the ability to guide others away from unnecessary conflict, helping them see the bigger picture. This is the one who fights only when it's truly needed and helps others avoid wasting their life force on meaningless opposition. There is an important nuance for this line. We have to outline. This line sees both the beauty of purposeful struggle and the tragedy of blind resistance. Its wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Reflection. Questions for gate 38.6 might help you for a reality check. Am I clear about why I'm resisting something? Is this battle grounded in truth or emotion, fear, or projection? Am I willing to step back and reevaluate the purpose of my fight? How can I model purposeful resistance instead of reactive struggle? If you also have gate 28, channel of struggle, then 38.6 adds a meaningful layer to your life path. You're designed to show others what is and isn't worth struggling for, not through judgment, but by embodying the clarity between meaningful and meaningless fights. Saturn exalted, eventual crystallization, which clears up misunderstandings, energy, which attracts misunderstanding, and the stubbornness to face opposition. Gate 38, the fighter is the energy to struggle for what has personal meaning. It's an instinctual drive to resist anything that feels purposeless, wrong, or threatening to your individuality or survival. It's rooted in pressure, root center. You're under internal tension to find meaning through opposition. Remember that line 6 is the role model. Line 6 is about perspective, observation, and wisdom. It often goes through trial and error, then steps back to see the bigger picture. In gate 38.6, this line represents someone who's learned, often the hard way, how to struggle with clarity, not just reaction. Line 6 tends to detach from the world, trying to make sense of it all. It seeks long-term truth and integrity. In gate 38.6, this means you've likely faced a lot of opposition, misunderstandings, and misinterpretations in your struggle for meaning. But with maturity, you can rise above and become an example of perseverance and clarity. 1. Your energy naturally attracts resistance or misunderstanding, especially early in life. People often misinterpret your motives. They may think you're being difficult or rebellious, even when your struggle is about something real and valuable. Example, you challenge a company policy, others think you're just difficult, but you're actually fighting for fairness. Your energy naturally provokes resistance or confusion in others. You may express something true or meaningful, but others hear, "Why are you being so difficult? You're too intense. Why do you always push back?" You're not trying to provoke, you're trying to live with integrity, but people misread your intentions. 2. You have the stubbornness to stand your ground anyway. You don't back down just because you're misunderstood. You have the inner strength to hold your ground until the truth becomes visible. This is Saturn's discipline. You stick with your truth through friction. Saturn gives you the discipline and endurance to stay committed even when no one gets it. You're willing to be seen as the troublemaker if the cause matters. Over time, people may come around and say, "You were right," but it might take years. 3. Eventually, the truth becomes clear. Over time, people may realize you were right to resist. This is the crystallization part. Your commitment leads to a clearer understanding, either for you or for others. For example, years later, people respect that you stood up for something they didn't see back then. Your life teaches patience through struggle. You probably feel that your path has not been easy. You've had to fight, often quietly, through internal or external opposition. You're not here to be flashy. You're here to stand for something meaningful, even if that means being alone or in tension. Over time, your clarity and truth can crystallize into wisdom. Others may seek you out for insight or guidance, especially if you've matured through your own struggle. You're here to become a role model of clear, grounded resistance. The matured version of this line doesn't react to misunderstanding. It lets time reveal the truth. Your example is silent, but powerful. You can misunderstand me now, but I will not abandon what I know is right. Use this placement, well by, staying the course without needing immediate validation, using time and reflection to help others see your point, not forcefully, but with maturity. Trust that clarity comes with time. You don't have to force people to understand you. Accepting that being misunderstood doesn't mean you're wrong. You have to see misunderstanding not as failure, but as part of the role you play in awakening others. Owning your discipline and resilience, you're wired to hold steady in chaos. With this placement, watch out for becoming bitter or distant, or even exhausted from constant opposition, from situations when people don't get you right away. You risk isolating yourself because no one gets it. Some will, just not always right away. Over-identifying with the struggle, thinking being misunderstood is always your role. Thus, you might let misunderstanding make you questioning your purpose. Saturn asks you to endure. As a short conclusion, your role is not to convince, but to embody the strength of patient, purposeful resistance, even when people don't get it. You carry the mature strength to stand alone in resistance, even when people don't understand you. Over time, your clarity emerges, and what once looked like opposition is revealed as purposeful resistance. Saturn gives you the spine to endure that gap. With Gate 38.6 and Saturn exalted, you are here to endure deep misunderstanding in your fight for meaning. And yet, you hold the potential to crystallize that struggle into clear, timeless wisdom. Earth in detriment. The recognition that misunderstanding is at the root of opposition, but the insistence that it is the misunderstanding of the opposing forces. Where misunderstanding is at the root of struggle, the energy of stubbornness to insist and maintain one's position. In pragmatic real life, this could mean that 1. You understand that conflict comes from misunderstanding. You realize that when people oppose you, it's often because they don't see things the way you do. This awareness helps you stay calm because you don't take opposition purely as a personal attack. 2. You're stubborn about your viewpoint. Even though you get that misunderstanding causes the conflict, you firmly believe the misunderstanding lies with the other side. This creates a stubborn energy where you insist on your own position and aren't easily swayed. 3. You maintain your position despite opposition. You're not quick to give in or compromise, especially when you feel the other side simply doesn't get it. This can be a strength, standing your ground, but also a source of ongoing tension if you don't soften enough. 4. Potential blind spot. Underestimating your own role. Because you assume the misunderstanding is on the opposing side, you might miss your own contribution to the confusion. This can make resolution harder as you hold tight to your position and don't explore your part in the misunderstanding. You might need to work with this energy and to use your awareness by recognizing that all parties bring something to the misunderstanding, including yourself. Staying firm, but open, willing to question your assumptions, not just others. Using your stubbornness as a tool to protect your values, not as a wall that blocks dialogue. On the other hand, there is the inherent risk of low expression in real life, so it is useful to watch out for getting stuck in us versus them thinking, where you see the other side as always wrong. Being so fixed that you miss opportunities for collaboration or growth. Letting stubbornness fuel ongoing conflict instead of resolution. With gate 38.6, an earth in detriment, you carry a wise awareness that misunderstanding causes struggle, but your strong stubbornness leads you to believe that the other side is always the one misunderstanding. You insist on your position and defend it firmly, which can protect your integrity, but risk prolonging conflict if you don't remain open to your own blind spots. Rauruhu gives us an essential explanation. In line companion. Each of these gates that come out the root center and point towards the splenic center have very unusual Uranian lines. We will see the 58.1 comma, the love of life. We will see the 54.4, which is the mystical line of enlightenment and darkenment. And here we come to the 38.6. This unusual line is the quality that exists in this individual process. The 38.6 has a direct resonance to the 20.6 that is going from the fuel to the expression. The expression in the 20.6 comma in the throat is wisdom. Wisdom in the now that is of value to society and to civilization. The 38.6 is one of the most potentially mutative of all gates in the individual process. The only lines that are intrinsically more mutative are the lines that you will find in the third hexagram. In other words, what you are seeing here in this particular line is a mutative force. It is a mutative force, and because mutation will always bring something new, that mutative force is always misunderstood. It is so difficult for individuals, even when they have the opportunity at the mental level, to explain themselves. When you are dealing with a fuel, with the pressure in the 38.6 comma, there is this fundamental knowing of what is worth struggling for, or, as is more often the case, what not to struggle for. There is always this misunderstanding from the outside, because it does not seem to fit into any kind of recognized pattern from the past. Opposition without basis, Saturn exalted, eventual crystallization that clears up misunderstandings. In the White Book it says, energy, which attracts misunderstanding, and the stubbornness to face opposition. These people know something that other people don't know. They still don't know what it means, and they don't know how to express it. It is just something inside. They can seem like they are fighting for something, and nobody can understand why they are fighting and what they are fighting about, and they themselves often have no idea why they are struggling and fighting. That is the nature of the 38.6. But there is always eventual crystallization. In other words, because it is a mutative process, eventually the mutation can take hold, and in that moment that the mutation gets to manifest, gets expressed or generated, in that moment, it is possible to recognize what the struggle has been for. Then, all those people around them that were struggling with them will let go, and the struggle will end. When you come to the earth in detriment, you have the recognition that misunderstanding is at the root of opposition, but the insistence that it is the misunderstanding of the opposing forces. The detriment is more mutative than the exalted. It will actually struggle for something, and it does not know why it is struggling for it for all of its life. Despite what anybody tries to tell them, because so deep is that force inside that the mutation of knowing is the only way that they will find value. The 38.6 people are often tormented by the fact that the knowing of others is never a knowing that is sufficient for them, because the value of life for them lies in a knowing that no one seems to have access to, and only they seem to have a recognition of inside of themselves, but do not know what it is. The 38.6 does not fight. They do not engage in struggle. Their struggle is all held within because nobody understands them. There is a very clear description of this in the keynote. The keynote does not belong to individuality, misunderstanding. The 38.6 is the bane of the collective. They drive the collective crazy. The collective can deal with individual knowing that has been around for a while, but they have a lot of problems with individual knowing that is brand new and cannot be explained to them. So they are up against the wall of struggle that they cannot deal with. Again, recognize what the nature of a sixth line is. This line is looking for the quality of the whole circuit. In other words, not only is the knowing finally there that gives value to the life, it also leads to the awareness that gives life its proper form, its proper convictions, and brings it out awake in the now to mutate all of society. No wonder that they are misunderstood. How difficult a process that is. For all sixth lines in individual gates, it is much more difficult to make any kind of commitment than it is for a collective sixth line. A tribal sixth line can be pulled in relatively quickly. The collective takes a little bit longer, but to bring in the individual sixth line to get a commitment out of these people, it has to come out of their unique knowing. End of quote. Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the 38th gate sustains or communicates the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the 38th gate, 38th hexagram, right angle, cross of tension 4, consisting of following gates, 38, 39, 48, 21. People with creative depth who understand that life is a struggle, yet know that struggle provokes spirit and purpose, making it worthwhile. Your cross is based on energy that is looking for a purpose and ready to struggle to make it happen. Because of this quality, it is paramount for you to find purpose in your life. Living your human design type and strategy is key to finding that purpose, because that is just how the energy works. If you don't find purpose, you will likely end up struggling with lack of purpose and direction. Follow your strategy and listen to your inner voice. Put that energy to fight through it all to good use. Juxtaposition cross of opposition, consisting of following gates, 38, 39, 57, 51, individuals with adrenalized energy who intuitively provoke or oppose or shock you into substantiating and explaining your claim or opinion. You are here to be an opposing force to almost everything you encounter. It is through this opposition that you will make others justify what they do, what they are talking about, or what they are selling. This is an important process both to you and others, because it is through the justification process that society can begin to see what ideas are legitimate and what are full of holes. You add value to all involved in the conversation because you ask the right questions and push the buttons to reveal the underlying truth. Left angle cross of individualism 2, consisting of following gates, 38, 39, 57, 51. Pure individuals who have to keep mutating, keep becoming themselves, which in turn shocks, creates tension, or provokes change in you. Your cross carries energy to provoke others and create tension. Through provocation, you create tension in others around you. Situations may become heated at times because people will unload on you. Energetically, however, you are ready for this, and it does not seem to bother you. What you are doing is forcing them to take a position and making them justify it. You probably don't even know you are doing this, but your energy gives people a little nudge here or there, and then they are suddenly worked up. Through this dance, you are here to get people going, to get their emotions flowing, and push them to find meaning in their lives. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative learning materials